Okay, so I just brought those renders to After Effects. I just right click in here and imported them. So here they are. There's my background by itself. You can see it up here, my color managed one and my ambient occlusion. And I also did a wire. And I'm going to bring them all to my timeline in here. And since they're all selected, I can say I want them to start here. So I'm going to hit Alt starting bracket. And then let's say they're in there for, let's say about 4 or 5 seconds. We'll say Alt end bracket in here. And because I have all of them selected, they're all cut to the same length. Now, you see the one on top is my background by itself. So if I look in here in effects and presets, if I type in here wipe, all the wipes that are in here will come out, and we just want a linear wipe. You have radial or band wipe. We'll just use linear wipe, and I'm gonna put it on my first layer here. And now I have a wipe. So if I search here, if I look in here, my picture is going away. Oh no, and I moved my camera in between. That was a big mistake. I moved my camera in between, so this is not going to match. Well, maybe it will match with one of these other ones. So I'm going to put this layer underneath and go back to the effects control here on the top layer for the background. Yeah, this one will work. It's the same size. So if I move the wipe here, the picture is showing me the background by itself, and then with the character without any of the lighting of the scene. I can, it has a stopwatch by it, so I can animate it. So I can come in here and say effects, linear wipe, there it is, transition completion. So I can start here at 0, let's say 0 over here, and turn on my stopwatch and go to the end here. And let's say over here is done. There we go. So now there's my wipe. I can fade it out too. If you look at here the controls, there's a fade out for the wipe or a feather. So you can feather out that line. You can also change the direction the wipe is going, so it can be going corner to corner to make it fancier. And actually, I can copy this this effect, this linear wipe. So I'm going to copy it, or I can just highlight this, Control C to copy, then go to my layer below. So my layer below is underneath the ambient occlusion layer, and is my my color manage version. So I'm going to paste it on there, and if I open it, you'll see I have the same exact effect with the same exact layers, except it pasted the time the keyframes where I had the time indicator at that point. So I could come in here and see this one wipe. I guess I did it wrong. So I can come to my ambient occlusion layer now and paste the same effect here. So I'm going to say Control V. There it is. The same effect is there. It pastes my effect wherever I have my time indicator at the moment. And I can adjust it here. So you will see the linear wipe on this layer now. There it is. I guess I ran out of layer before it ended. So I can do it this way. You see 2 wipes are coming. And I need these layers at the bottom to last longer. And I can actually put the wireframe. This color managed layer is not looking great. So I'm going to delete it. And then I have my wireframe underneath. So the layer on top is getting wiped out and showing the one on the bottom. So it's not really a complicated effect. You know, you just have to know a couple of the effects of After Effects, and you're set. So this is what your classmate did. It rendered this way, but he even rendered an animation with it, which added a lot to it. So if you come to Maya, let me just close the render window here. You could easily add a camera in here. So we can go to Create, Cameras, and just add a simple camera. And there's the camera, and we want to look through it. So we're going to go to Panels and say Look Through Selected. Now I'm looking through that camera, so I can position it here how I want it. Let's say something like this. Let's turn on the resolution gate. Say something like this. Let's see if I can cut out the edges of the scenery here. So there we go. And this is exactly the same than when you animated the track. The camera has a position itself, a rotation, and a scale. So I'm going to highlight by just dragging over the words here, the translate and rotate. And I'm going to right click and say key selected. So now Maya is remembering this position, and I guess I pasted it and I did it at 25 frames in, so I should do it at 0. So I'm going to right click on the timeline, say cut this keyframe, put it at 0. So I'm going to right click again and say paste, paste. There it is. So Maya is remembering that position at frame 1. And let's say this moves in about so we're 24 frames per second. So this is moving at about 24 frames in 1 second, and we want it to move in about 3 seconds. So I'm going to say 24, 48, 60, 68. Let's say we'll end over here. Let's end at 69 right here. It's not too long. And I can just move my camera again. And position it where I want it. If you have auto key turned on, which is this little button here, and the plus sign, you will set up a key just by moving the camera. You don't have to even right click in here and say key selected. It will set it by itself. So now I have an animation. The camera is animating without me doing anything. Right? It's just moving a little bit, and this adds a lot to your render. And you know, if you render it 3 times like your classmate did, you would have the render and then the 3 transitions from wireframe to normal. You just have to wait till the renders are done. And the way to render an image sequence is you go to your render settings, and by default it's set to render a single image here, or single frame. If you click on this and you say I want a sequence, so please record name, number, dot, extension. You don't want the dot somewhere else or the extension somewhere else. That will just confuse After Effects when you try to bring it in. So we'll say name, number, dot, extension. So we'll click on this, and then you say how many frames you want to render on the frame range. So we put a keyframe at 1 or 0, and then 1 at 69. I think I did it. So we can say start at 1 and render all the way till 69. And then when you render the sequence, you can, you know, it will still render 1 frame if you click on this, a single frame, and it will take a while. So I'm just going to hit escape on my computer so the render stops. But let's pretend is done rendering. It will still tell you how long it took to render down here, and the size of your image and all that information. So you can kind of calculate how long this is going to take you to do it. You know, if it's 8 seconds a frame, you know, I have 98 frames, how long that's going to take, right? So after I have that figured out, I can come to render here, or and say render sequence, or click on this button. The render will start going, and it will render frame 1 by 1. Then you can put it in media encoder to have it put together a movie for you. Okay, so we have that rendering, but I don't want to have you wait while I do that. So I can show you something else. So if you're having problems rendering, you can see a little better what's going on. So if you come to panels on top of the window here, and you look at layouts, you can make two, arrange your own layout for the windows. We usually have the four views here, but in here we can say panels, layout, and two panes stacked, because my windows, are kind of bigger. So in this one, I can just leave the camera, and in this one, I can just use the perspective view. So I'm going to go back to panels on this window and say perspective. Now I can kind of see what the camera is doing. So if I have this window selected, the window will animate. The other ones will not animate, but I can see what's going on this one. And there's my camera that's looking through this. So if I hit play, you'll see the camera moving across the room. So if it's doing something weird, on this view, you can look in here and see what's going on. So I can come back in here, and let's say I didn't want it to move in a straight line. So right now it's moving in a straight line. And if you're having trouble seeing what movement is following, if you change your menu from modeling here to animation, you will see all the animation options here. There's one that's called visualize. So if you select your object here and then say visualize, create editable motion trail, this will create a line showing you what path that camera is following. So see, if I drag on the timeline in here, it's showing me where my camera is going and how it's moving across the scene. So if there's a frame that looks kind of weird, you can come in here and select the camera, hit W to move it and adjust it. So my camera's making a curve instead of a straight line now. And this will help you, kind of visualize what the camera is doing. Maybe fix the position or the rotation. As long as you have automatic key turned on, that's going to keep track of what the camera is doing. But remember, the first keyframe, you have to set it manually. You have to set the first keyframe. Even if you have this on, you have to set this keyframe manually. And then once you have the camera animation done, you can just render your sequence. And I'm going to put the instructions below this video so you can see the how to render an image sequence without having to rewatch the whole video. But that is it. It's just I hope you can blow our minds with your fantastic demo reel here. You'll have a bit of time to render it and to put it together, and you are done with the class. So congrats, and I'll see you around.